Okay, just before we crack into today's video, let me explain how you can help us. More and more Kiwis are waking up to the fact that New Zealand is in big trouble right now. So how can we turn this country around? The answer is through education. What does that mean? Well, it means exposing more and more people to our videos. It's as simple as that. Just click on the subscribe button on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, and you'll be subscribed. What happens then? Well, when you subscribe, YouTube sends our videos out to more Kiwis. That's how it works. Subscribing is free. You'll never be charged anything. It's just that simple. So please do it and then enjoy the rest of the video. Well, hi, you beautiful New Zealanders, not Aotearoa rights. Today's video is about more Maori grifting. This time it's the ETS, or the Emissions Trading Scheme. So let's have a look at this. What's in the box today? In this video, I explain how the Emissions Trading Scheme works. Then I explain how Maori are exempt from the rules that apply to all other citizens in New Zealand. And then number 3, I explain how this is yet another example of racism and apartheid at work in our country. So watch. First up, what is the Emission Trading Scheme, or the ETS, and how did it start? Well, let's watch this video together.
So how did the carbon story take hold? Meet the man who invented climate change, according to the Telegraph. His name? Maori Strong. An oil tycoon and a man with an extraordinary talent for moving between high finance, politics, and the United Nations. Strong was a member of the highly influential Club of Rome, an institution formed in 1968 at a Rockefeller property on Lake Como in Italy. A group of scientists, academics, and industrialists discussed what they saw as an urgent crisis: the impact of human activity on the planet.
I don't think we can sustain current growth trends much beyond, say, the lives of children who are being born today.
To prove the thesis, they commissioned computer modeling at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. This research laid the foundations for an agenda that's persisted for over 50 years.
Cut use of autos, use less electric power, have fewer children, limit growth.
All of this was fueling this ideology that there's too many people on the planet, there's not enough resources, and that something has to be done.
The natural world in which man lives and on which he depends is indeed deteriorating, is being destroyed in many instances at a rate that is accelerating, and that can only continue to accelerate unless we begin to control the activities that are having this destructive impact.
In 1975, the Club of Rome published a second report, Mankind at the Turning Point. The lead quotation was telling.
The world has cancer, and the cancer is man.
The report concluded,
the solution of these crises can be developed only in a global context, with full and explicit recognition of the emerging world system, a new world economic order, and a global resources allocation system.
In other words, technocracy. Top-down control of everything, including populations. But if that was the solution, a worldwide problem was required. Climate change provided the answer, as admitted in a later Club of Rome document.
This is the quote from page 115. In searching for a new enemy to unite us, we came up with the idea that pollution, the threat of global warming, water shortages, famine, and the like would fit the bill. All these dangers are caused by human intervention, and it is only through changed attitudes and behaviour that they can be overcome. The real enemy, then, is humanity itself. It really does look as though they are inventing climate change there.
They just made it up out of thin air, literally. That nobody really looks at that book and say, well, there you go. It's not, this has nothing to do with science whatsoever. They just made it up.
Interestingly, in 1988, Maori Strong had been instrumental in establishing the IPCC, the mainly political entity which endorsed a thesis by a small group of scientists that industrial carbon dioxide was driving climate change, and the IPCC has been locked into that theory ever since. Maori Strong's masterstroke came in 1992, when as Secretary-General of the UN's Earth Summit in Brazil, he saw 179 nations commit to a world action plan. Agenda 21.
We have been the most successful species ever. We are now a species out of control.
Nobody would question the need for a cleaner environment and the protection of nature. And Strong's legacy lives on through the Kyoto Protocol, the Paris Accord, the current Agenda 2030, and the worldwide push for carbon net zero. But there are questions on his motives and his connections. He was behind the first financial carbon market and a founding director of the World Economic Forum. Surely a conflict of interests with his involvement in the IPCC.
Okay, so there you go. That's how it all started, and that's where it all comes from. So let's go into this, the climate change hoax. Just to summarize, one of the ideas behind the climate change hoax is that cars, trucks, animals, people, factories, etc., emit carbon dioxide or CO2. Well, this is actually true, they do. These CO2 emissions, so climate alarmists say, are changing our climate negatively, causing things like floods and heat waves, etc. This is not true, okay? They say these climate changes will destroy the planet. This is also not true. One solution, according to climate alarmists, what do they say? They say, well, plant trees, pine trees. Why? Well, trees breathe in CO2 and breathe out oxygen, which is the truth of the matter. In other words, trees take out CO2 from the atmosphere, which is true. And this is what they actually do. What they don't tell you, these climate alarmists, is that the world actually needs CO2 and that there is not enough CO2 in the atmosphere. So without CO2, plants would die. They don't tell you this. CO2 is actually food for plants. For plants to start dying because of lack of CO2, CO2 levels need to be about 150 parts per million. Current levels in the world are about 450 parts per million. Levels of CO2 in the Garden of Eden, if they could be measured, where growing conditions were optimal, CO2 was running at 1200 parts per million. The conclusion is the world needs more CO2, not less of it, for goodness sake. Yet the hoax continues in many countries, including New Zealand. So here it's called the Emissions Trading Scheme, or the ETS. See? So governments who have been sucked in by the climate change hoax asked the question, how do we get people planting more trees? The answer was the Emissions Trading Scheme, the Emissions Trading Scheme. Farmers were targeted. They were encouraged to use their farmland to plant pine trees. The government said, oh, we'll pay you $2,000 an acre per annum every year for every acre you plant in pine trees. Well, farmers could not resist that. See, farmers grazing beef or sheep could only get $200 return per acre for their land off sheep and beef. For this reason, many farmers jumped on the bandwagon. Work it out. They could get 10 times as much money from trees as they could from animals. Plus, trees require very little maintenance, whereas animals require a lot of maintenance. You could just go and plant all these trees, sit back in your fire and just watch them grow in your house. You don't have to do anything, not like beef and sheep where you've got a lot of maintenance. So this is where Maori grifting kicks in. Up until recently, farmers could convert their whole farms into pine trees, and many have done this. Then the government realised that this was going to reduce stock numbers, that's food, to crisis levels. Freezing workers were being laid off like there was no tomorrow. In other words, MPs realised that they had made a huge mistake allowing whole farms to convert from stock to trees. So listen to this interview, it's really eye-opening.
Processing plants across New Zealand are doing it hard as livestock numbers are dropping and keep dropping. It's forcing big players like Silver Fern Farms and Alliance Group to scale back their operations. With fewer sheep and dairy cattle coming through, plants are struggling to match their staffing levels to what's actually arriving at the gates. Alliance already shut its Smithfield plant in Timaru last year, and Silver Fern Farms currently has around 3,000 seasonal workers on layoff, especially on night shifts, just to keep the costs under control. While farmers are enjoying high prices for their stock thanks to strong demand, it's making things even tougher for meat companies trying to stay profitable. Silver Fern Farms posted a $21.8 million loss this year after losing $24.4 million in 2023. Alliance did even worse, losing nearly $96 million, half of that due to redundancies. Meat Workers Union boss Daryl Karen says they've warned companies for years the livestock numbers were on the decline And now it's catching up with him. And he joins me now. Daryl, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm good. Made me think when I was looking at this story, because I'm from Hawke's Bay, and I had a lot of family cousins at the old Wakatu or Whakatu Works, back in the day.
Yeah.
And, and a lot of kids left school and went straight to the works. And, those days look like they might be over. But Daryl, isn't it simply a case of too many plants for the stock that's available?
Yeah, and look, we've faced this time and time again over decades. I've obviously had my time of 50 years in the industry. And starting as a young fella straight out of school, some of my friends went into trades. I think they were better off, and that's good. Better choice, I gather. And look, we're at the peak then in those times in the mid-70s because the government was in power at the time, was National under Muldoon, who heavily subsidised the sheep industry. And that was mainly on the basis of trying to keep the industry going. So instead of trying to increase returns, it virtually subsidised them and encouraged farmers to produce more, leading to a blowout population of something like 70 million breeding sheep at peak.
Yeah.
And that inevitably delayed any rationalisation of sites that would have actually occurred had those subsidies not been on. So farmers got used to the subsidies. Then we had the period under the Rogernomics where interest rates just massively climbed. And the sad part about that era was we've seen farmers committing suicide, being put off the land, dramatic times, and it was very, very dramatic. And then, of course, we've seen the subsidies removed, obviously, and then moved into rationalisation. So I'm actually a former Alliance worker for 25 and a half years. However, I spent most of my days as a union rep from the age of 18 to where I am today, which is probably not close on retirement.
Yeah.
So we've had this continual decline of breeding ewe numbers. It hasn't really stopped. Every year there's been a slight drop. There might have been a stable period for a year or two, and then obviously the decline continued. But the real speed up has been since 2014, where you've seen to 2014 to 2024, we've had something like 806,000 hectares planted in trees that are not farming. It's not a farming enterprise for trees. This is over and above the normal, tree farmers that actually farm them for livelihoods. This is actually for the ETS purposes.
Yeah.
That's going to have a big negative to the area, to the rural areas, because there is no maintenance on those trees. They're just purely there for ETS. They just grow, then they fall over,
So there you go, straight from Daryl. That's what he says is happening in our country, and yet politicians are allowing this. So where does this get us to? Well, because of the problem of livestock numbers dropping to dangerously low levels, recently the government changed the rules. Well, good on them. How so? They said you can only plant 25% of your farms in trees. It used to be 100%. There's only one exception. Well, who's that? It's Maori. If you're a Maori, you can continue to plant 100% of your farm in trees. Hard to believe that they did this, but this is true. This is what they've done, the politicians. They've allowed one law for Maori and another law for everyone else. So what does this mean? Well, first it means Maori can continue to make huge profits from their land through the ETS. Non-Maori can't make the same profits. Second, Maori don't have to share the burden of increasing stock levels back to acceptable levels. The burden is left to non-Maori. See how this works? Third, it is reported that some Maori landowners are spraying their native bush with weed killer so they can replant the trees with their land with pine trees. Get that? This is in spite of Maori claiming that their land is sacred. For Maori, so we're told, the natural world is a god, but not when it comes to making money. They chuck all that away quickly. So the following is an extract from the bill going through Parliament allowing special favour and rights to Maori. Politicians say this favouritism to Maori is mandated in the treaty. Oh my goodness, this is absolute nonsense. The treaty mandates one law for all, one standard of citizenship for all, and nothing less. We got to get this. None of this is mandated in the treaty. You know what the treaty has become? It's become like a get out of jail card. It's become like a genie that you rub and get anything you want if you're Maori. And politicians are so treaty ignorant that they just go along with this. So here is the bill. This is what it's called, the Climate Change Response Emissions Trading Scheme Forestry Conversion Amendment Bill. And this is what's going through Parliament. And you can read the rest of the bill there. I'm not going to read that to you, but if you just pause your video, you can read that and see all the entitlements that Maori are getting that nobody else is getting. And it's all under the guise of Treaty of Waitangi obligations. Notice right at the top. What a crock. And there's the rest of it. So how do we summarize this? The whole idea that so-called climate change is man-made is a hoax. Climate does change, but the changes are not man-made. See, that's the key. They're natural cycles as the earth warms and cools. It's been going on for hundreds and hundreds of years, thousands of years. So the government has been sucked into the idea that climate change is man-made. Hence they came up with the idea of planting trees. Maori have no restrictions on what percentage of their land they can plant in trees. Non-Maori can only plant 25% of their land in trees, 25%. So having one law for one group in society and another law for another group, what's that called? It's called apartheid. That's what it is. It's racism. And we need to fight against MPs who write dual rules into legislation. We need to vote them out of office. In this case, it's National Simon Watts. He needs to be voted out. That's the truth of the matter. Yeah? But he's creating dual rules. He's creating apartheid. He might as well be in South Africa. Yeah, like Botha. Well, just before we go, I want to tell you about a great resource that we've just produced. People want to know where they can find the topics of the videos we've produced. One of our team has produced a great resource. It's a very comprehensive index to every video we've ever produced. Now, we've put it into a PDF format, so you can use the PDF search tool to find keywords. In other words, through that search tool, you can find every single video we've ever done and what's in those videos. There are also study questions so that you can watch a video in a small group and have a discussion about that video you've just watched. This is great for everyone, particularly for homeschool children and parents. Man, this would be a great resource for people like that. The document is called the Index of SCG, that stands for Stop Co-Governance Videos. So I'll put a link to this document in the description of this video. So go for it. Watch the videos, make discussions, have discussions, and tease out everything you can from every video. Okay, thanks for watching. Please like, please send this video on to others. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Okay guys, that's enough for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Now we need your help with something. This is important. We have produced some great flyers and brochures which we want to get into the hands of all New Zealanders. So we need to go around the mainstream media. They're not going to help. In fact, they're making things a lot worse. So we have to go around them. And we need your help to make this happen. We can't do this without you. So what are we talking about? First, there is our business cards. They're only 3 cents each plus courier to get them to you. Then there is our latest booklet called The Psychology of Takeover, 19 strategies Maori activists are using to take over the country. It's 80 pages and packs a huge punch. So they're cheap, they're $3, and they're absolutely fantastic if you want to get a handle on what's actually happening in New Zealand. Then we have a few thousand of our original Stop Co-Governance booklets left over from my tour in 2023. Remember these? You'll remember we printed 550,000 of these. Well, these are now free because we realized that only about a third of New Zealand houses got this booklet last when I did my tour, and so we want to get to the other 2/3. So if you do a few streets around where you live, that would be absolutely phenomenal, and they are free now. Then we have our MACA, that's Marine and Coastal Act brochure 2, which alert people to the loss of our beaches. You know, we're in danger of losing all the beaches around New Zealand. The text is written by Graham Adams, who's a great author. These are now free. And then we have our beautiful bumper sticker, which we've just made. And why are we doing this? Well, New Zealand's identity is under threat. We know that. First activists have and are still trying to change the name of New Zealand to Aotearoa. We don't want that. We must oppose this. This is rubbish. Where's the referendum saying that we want to change the name of the country? There was none. It was just forced on us. Second, Maori sovereignty flags are appearing more and more all over the place, and they're just treason. So we've got to get these bumper stickers out. So we've printed some awesome bumper stickers. packets. They're $3 each, and they measure 21.5 by 6.5, so you can see how big that would be on your car. To get any of these free products, all you need to do is pay for the courier to get them to you. For the products that cost something, like the bumper stickers or the little psychology booklet, it's the cost plus the courier to get them to you. So to order any of these products, just use this email address, cards@stopcogovernance.kiwi, and we'd love to hear from you. Finally, if you want to access all the videos we've ever made, including all our most viewed and most popular videos, and have them all in one place, which is what people are asking for, then just type in this address into your browser. There it is there, https www.youtube.com/@stopcogovernance, and you'll find it goes straight to our channel. Then what you do is save this address to your computer as a favorite. Job done. Well done. Then you've got them all in one place forever. And all the new ones that are coming in get placed into that address, so you won't miss anything. Okay, last thing, please, oh please, don't forget to subscribe. When you subscribe, you'll get the latest videos straight into your inbox. You'll never miss a video, which is great. You'll link up with like-minded people all over New Zealand, and that's very, very stimulating to have meet up with all these people who think like you. You'll be telling YouTube, I like these videos, and they will respond by advertising our videos to more Kiwis for free. It's incredible what they do, but it just relies on you replying to comments and making comments and liking things and sharing things and activity. That's what it is. It's just activity on our channel. And turning New Zealand around is simply a matter of reaching more Kiwis with the truth. So just click on the subscribe button on the bottom right hand side of your screen. There, the little yellow arrow is showing you where it is, and you'll be subscribed. Okay, see you next time. You guys are awesome.